Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 107, we're talking about getting creative, but it's not like, sewing. We will talk about, but it's like how much creativity life needs, especially as a mom. So let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, where we untangle pregnancy, parenting, home, and even travel. We know there's no right answer for every family, but hopefully we can spark some ideas that will work for yours. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, guys, before we get started, could you leave me a review? I love reviews. They are the very best. Seriously, the very best. Could you go leave me a review? Thanks. Today's guests are the Creative Housewives. Jen owns My Crappy Farmhouse on Instagram, where they are remodeling a crappy farmhouse, per her own words. They have loads of children between the two of them. I want to welcome my friends Jen and Paula. Are you overwhelmed by all there is to do around your house? As a new mom, I felt overwhelmed at every turn. Fortunately, I turned to systems to make a change. Whether it's mornings, dinner time, or even just to climb out of a pile of kids' clothes, My Course Family Routines can save you. I hold your hand as we smooth out these rough patches, making every day easier so we can more easily handle when your preschooler tells you they can use their urine like a lightsaber. Parenting is always going to be a wild ride. Routines are just your seatbelt, and they can support you. Use coupon code UNTANGLED to save 15% at checkout. Link in the show notes. Hey, Jen and Paula, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Hello.
So exciting. I love it when I have friends come on the podcast.
We're so excited to be here. So excited.
Okay, so you guys are the Creative Housewives, right?
Correct.
So are you creative?
Depending on the day, sure.
So. Yeah. All right. So I'd love each of you guys to speak a little bit about how you use creativity in like your home life. So be it like physically being creative or like emotionally creative or financially creative. All right. Who wants to start?
Well, I'm the older sister, so I'll start. I'll just say that I get to start
Yeah,
first.
that makes sense.
So when it comes to being creative, I think that we have had to do all of the above. I think that when people see Creative Housewives, they immediately think, like crafty or whatever. But I know Paula, and I'll let her speak to more on this. Being creative in the kitchen, she is a pro at. But you touched on being creative financially, and as you know, we have a lot of children between the two of us, and so finding things to do and the ability to provide for the kids and all the things that they're wanting to do and stuff. We've definitely had to be creative at times. And then I even think like being creative in parenting in general, like how we're going to have, like which parent is going to do what and what things you literally are just going to let go and just be like, it doesn't matter. Like, as I'm looking at my laundry over to the side, there are some days when we're right on top of that, and other days when it's like, that's just not going to happen today. So how?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to get into that later, like very specific stuff, but I think that for sure, I know me personally, when it comes to being creative, it is in every aspect of parenting.
Yeah. Because every kid, like every day, it's just a new situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no with 7 kids, there are some things that it's just like, yeah, by the time you got to the last one, it was like, I've got this. But when it comes to parenting 7 kids, it is parenting 7 different individuals. There is no way. I share the story a lot. My oldest was so easily motivated by money. Like we could get him to do or not do anything if there was money on the line, like it was just, and then we had our daughter and she could not have cared less about money, when she was little, like it just, that did not motivate her in any way, shape or form. And so it was learning to parent all over again. Like, okay, what are the things that she is excited about? What types of things, like if she's doing something wrong, how can we convince her to stop doing that? Because she just didn't care about the same things he cared about.
Yeah. What do you think, Paula?
I think Jen really hit the nail on the head. You do with different children, you do have to parent them differently, and you do have to get creative in figuring out what is most important to them. And I have one kid that you look at him like you're disappointed, then that breaks his heart. The fact that someone's disappointed in him. And it's not even just us as parents. If his teachers, if like they're like, yeah, you know what, I was really expecting you, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh man. And so he knows next time he needs to do better, try harder. So it really is just very different for each child. And also in our homes, just being creative, as like Jen talked about, I love to cook and bake. So especially especially during the whole pandemic and things not being open or as readily available as they normally were, we were trying to figure out how to mix things up at home. We thought we were really, really helping those businesses by doing curbside and everything. And after a while, even that's like, oh, we don't want to do another curbside pickup. Like we were actually craving those more at home meals and stuff, even though we were stuck at home so much. So being creative in coming up with, just different things to keep your family happy at mealtime, keep them eating what what you're making. So I'm not the type of mom that makes a lot of different meals because one kid doesn't like this. I try really hard to make things that the whole family will at least like something of, so they'll walk away from the meal feeling full. But that is with a lot of different appetites, a lot of different preferences, being creative, putting all of that food into one meal to make sure that people are being nourished.
Yeah.
Like actually physically nourished, and eating, but also being creative in how Josh and I parent when it comes to all of the different activities our kids are doing. We're being pulled in a million different directions. And, so we kind of do have to get creative. Our oldest is 18. And so he drives, but, so he can help take one kid to one practice while I'm taking someone somewhere else and Josh is taking someone somewhere else. And, just kind of, I think creativity in life is just almost something that you have to have. You have to, and some people are more creative in some ways than others, which is great. And that's why I think we can all learn from each other. But it really is where there's different things that you have to make things work one way or the other. Josh was out of work for 7 months, about 2 years ago. And so we had to get creative. All right, well, we're going to have to prioritize this over this and make sure that we're, putting things that need to be first, and then figuring out how to make the other things work one way or the other. And so it's just creativity. I think everybody has it. I don't think they recognize that they have it. And so we just try to help people recognize that creativity is not something that's really as hard as you think.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be pulling out your Cricut Maker.
No,
that would be the swearing housewives of my house. Just kidding.
I mean, we love our Cricut machines 100%, but sometimes, yeah, it's, what, I can cut this with, my paper trimmer and some scissors. I'm not going to pull out the Cricut for that, but, that is one aspect of creativity.
Or I'm just literally going to print it out from the printer, period. There will be no cutting involved.
This is what you get.
Voila. I love how you guys mentioned spouse roles because I hadn't even thought of that either, but I think that's so true. We get a lot of people at church that are like, well, Drew is going to provide for your family and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we have very different roles. Like Drew does all the laundry folding and he does most of the cleaning at our house. And I do the organizing. I a lot of times get the stuff in the laundry, but we have different roles and we're like working to our strengths here.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like the world has changed so much from my oldest daughter is taking some classes right now, and it was talking about like not like gender roles but kind of like those traditional husband and wife roles and stuff, and she was reading some of them off to me and was like kind of like, what are your thoughts on this, and I had to laugh because I was like, I don't know how your dad and I fit into that because we are definitely not those traditional roles. Like throughout our marriage, it's been, sometimes I've worked outside of the home and sometimes I haven't. And sometimes I've worked inside of the home and sometimes I haven't. And sometimes we had a billion babies running around that were little, and that was what my whole day consisted of. And the idea of putting dinner on the table was never going to happen if it was up to me. And so I feel like I don't know if I can say our whole married life because he was in school for a while there at the beginning, but for the majority of our married life, he was a 50-50 in the kitchen. He does, and it makes me happier than And ladies out there, if you're not having your husband do the grocery shopping, you may be missing out on, it was my favorite thing in the world when he started taking over grocery shopping, because when I would like go grocery shopping, he would tend to question things like, did we need this? Did we need that? Like when money's tight, you're looking at stuff, and that was not something I ever did. And I had to have surgery one time, and he had done some grocery shopping. And I remember like literally the kids like cheering because he had brought home like chicken nuggets and corn dogs. And that would have never, like, convenience foods like that were not something that was ever on my grocery list. It was like I mapped out the meals and I did and it kind of changed everything. That it was like, if you're cool spending money on that kind of stuff, and one night a week, it's a fend for yourself. Everybody, pick anything you want that I don't have to cook, and you are welcome to eat it. And that just changed things for how I thought if I was being a good wife and mom, then I was making dinner every night, and we were all sitting down, and having that just that little change. And was it intentional creativity? No. Is it different than a lot of people? I tell people that Nate does all the grocery shopping, and I had friends look at me and be like, so then what do you do? I was like, I promise there are things that I still do if I'm not grocery shopping. The man does not do laundry. It's a given. He does not do laundry. So
well, it's a give and take. I love that because it is kind of being creative because it's outside of what you think like the norms are. Because I agree, especially during the pandemic, we started like having convenience food Friday where we would buy just like frozen treats and the kids would go out to the freezer and pick something. And that was as good as going out to eat to them because they love their pizza rolls. God bless them.
Oh, for sure. And something that Josh and I learned, like Jen said, of being 50-50 is, and I hope that, for most people, the 50-50 partnership in marriage is not being creative. I want that to be the norm for people. I want that to be, like that's how it is. A marriage is a partnership. But Josh and I decided a long time ago after, having one of us at home, whether it was him or whether it was me, one of us at home made our home run better. It made things run more smoothly. So whether or not that was, because sometimes it has been him that he's been the one at home and the one getting kids out the door to school and making sure that clothes are ready and everything like that. And sometimes it's been me at home. Sometimes with the pandemic, it was both of us at home. Honestly, I prefer that. We both get working from home and everything. I think that's fantastic. And, we're both present at different times and our abilities of things that we can help with are different. Parents, if you can definitely have a situation where your spouse is the opposite when you need them to be the opposite, because there will be times when I am freaking out and somehow Josh is just super calm. And like, he's like, it's fine. And there are times when Josh is like, I can't believe, and I'm like, you know what? It's all going to work out. So somehow we always make that work, and just getting, to figure out what works best for your family and get creative when you think of that. Think of, this might not be the norm. This might not be what everyone else in our neighborhood is doing, but this is what works for us. And it makes our family run great and it brings us closer together and we're happier for it. So, definitely trial and error, figure out what works and really focus on your family. Don't focus on the outside of what everyone else is doing. Focus on what works best for you guys.
Yeah. And get creative because like for a while I worked swing shift, which I think a lot of people wouldn't be like, oh, the mom should work when the kids are done with school. But it worked well for us because Drew was done with school then and we only used a half-hour daycare. And yeah, so there's always lots of different options. Okay. So we talked about like household creativity, but what do you guys like doing when you're like, you want to get your crafty selves on because you guys are pretty crafty. What do you like to do?
We are. Yeah, I think so. I think Jen's a lot better at crafty than I am. Like I said, I think that if you put our roles out there, I'm probably more the baker and the cook. And she definitely is. She'll look at something and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't visualize that way. I'm not that type of creative. But yeah, I think that for me, I love cooking and baking. It's one of my favorite things, trying new things. Also trying to figure out ways to get my kids involved. They eat meals better when they're involved. Like when they're being able to create something in the kitchen with me, they're a lot more likely to eat what we're making because they want to try what they make. And so that's definitely one way of getting creative in the kitchen is get your kids involved. Find out things that they can do. Even Pippa, she's 3. I give her a butter knife and some soft fruit and she cuts that up. I don't care what it looks like. They're going to eat it regardless. It's fruit. Everybody eats it. Just figure out what you can do to get them involved and get them creating in the kitchen. And it's going to be a lot more fun and you're going to get your kids to eat a lot better.
Yeah. And they're going to eat when they move out.
Exactly. They won't starve to death.
Yes.
It's not going to be ramen.
Hey, now I'll take ramen.
Hey,
I mean,
I
at least
think
he's getting fed.
ramen's great, but every meal is a little rough.
It gets a little rough every meal.
Yeah. I have one moving out that literally every time he uses the microwave, he goes, "How long should I put this in? What is it?" And I'm like, just give it a minute. Just try a minute."
I always tell my kids, start with 20 seconds, stir, 20 seconds, stir, and then you can decide if it needs longer.
Isn't it funny how we're all different with that? Because Hillary, you said a minute, Paul, you said 20 seconds. I'm always like, a 30 second. It is without a fail. I'm like 30 seconds, put it in for 30 seconds, flip it over halfway through, let it go.
We just got the new microwave and it's a minute on it one. We bought the more expensive microwave and it's got a minute button and I feel like it was a minute button for a reason. My last one had a 30-second button. I don't know.
There you go. There you go. So I think Paula, like there have been times when I've been in awe of Paula in the kitchen and it has been, and I'm just like that. I am not that person that you can be like, here, try this. And I'm like, okay, I get a little skeptical, but I would never be able to tell you what was in it. Like, yeah, maybe if it had like lemon or, something, I do not pick flavors out that way. And so for me, creativity comes in most ways that don't involve the kitchen, from tearing down 90% of a house and figuring out, how we want it to go back together. I am at my happiest when I have a project, and whether that is breaking out the Cricut Maker and creating shirts for my kids, or I will never forget, there was one year that I was doing a lot of sewing. I love to sew, and I was doing a lot of sewing, and it was probably like 10 o'clock at night, and Belle, I think, was like 11 maybe. And so I had three girls right in a row. Belle was 11. That would have made Anna 9 and Mia 7. And then Lila would have been just a baby. And Belle was like, "Oh, Mom, we should really have new skirts for tomorrow." And the fact that she was like, if I say this to my mom, she could do this. Like, that was like huge to me. Like, I cannot let her down. And so Nate was like rolling his eyes laughing at me because I was like, "Oh, Belle wants skirts for tomorrow, so I'm going to stay up tonight and make them all skirts." And he was like, "You're what?" And I had so much fun doing that, using that part of my brain, figuring it out. And so that's my creativity comes in those types of ways. And also, like, even if my kids weren't sitting down doing it with me all the time, seeing me doing it, like, I've never had, well, for like 5 minutes once I did, but I've never really had a designated crafting space. So it's always been like right on the kitchen table in the middle of everything. And so they're there and they're seeing it like, "Mom, what are you doing? What are you?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm working on this," or "I'm doing this." And I love that because when you hear them like talking to their friends and stuff, call it pride, whatever, but it makes me so happy when my kids are like, "Oh, my mom could do that." Or, "Oh my," like it's like, "Oh, my mom made this." Like, it's fun for them. It makes me feel good that they're excited about it. And specifically that year that Belle was like, "We all need matching skirts." I in my head, I was like, this is probably the last time that she is ever going to want to match her younger sisters, and like have that. And so embracing those changes and, and stuff like that in life, I think but it's something that's fun for me. Like, I know it's not fun for everyone. I remember there was a talk in conference one year where they were like, I think they specifically mentioned staying up to make like the matching bow for the baby's outfit for church on Sunday or something like that. And Nate like side-eyeing me and being like, "And how many times have you stayed up all night because you were like, is it a necessity? No. Is it something that made me happy? Yes. And do I believe that my house is a different place when I'm happy versus when I just feel like I'm down in a funk and not 100%?" And so luckily I have, and I feel like Paula does as well, a very supportive family for like, they know that that's something important to me. And so when I was like, "I think I need a scroll saw," Nate was like, "Why do you need a scroll saw?" And I was like, "Well, I saw this thing and I think I can do it." And he was like, "Okay." And so I think it's been like 2 months ago, we bought a scroll saw. It's still sitting in the box because I haven't actually had time to break it out and mess with it yet. But they, they encourage and they have fun with, and it seems like they always have something that they would love. I know Mom can do that. And so I think it ends up benefiting everyone when we're doing the things that we love and finding, and for me, that's creative crafting or home construction, apparently.
I love that. You said that Belle was like, "Oh, my mom could do that." And I was trying to think what my kids would say about that. I think they'd be like, "Oh, my mom knows about herpes."
Are you worried that's herpes? My mom can definitely help out with that.
Yeah. Apparently that's my
Well,
creativity.
and like Jen said, it is a sense of like accomplishment and being proud of yourself of knowing how to do things. Because just recently, my husband's over the young men at our church and they want to do something for Cinco de Mayo. So we make taquitos. I know how to make tortillas. So we are going to teach them how to roll taquitos and make their own fresh tortillas, as something that's like, something that a lot of these kids, their parents probably don't know how to do. And that's fine because everyone has their different, strong suits. But I was like, that's kind of awesome that, he was like, oh yeah, we'll teach them how to make a couple of things, to help learn about Cinco de Mayo and celebrate, the Mexican culture and things like that. So that is, it's a little sense of pride that like my creativity is something my other family members can also be proud of and be excited about.
Yeah. And you can teach your kids. And even if that's not a strong suit that they have, at least they know how to do it.
Yeah.
I love what I'm hearing is that everybody has like different areas that they enjoy being creative in, because I think a lot of us feel like we need to be creative in the kitchen, where in reality, my kids would probably be happy with the same 5 meals constantly.
Yep.
But I much prefer like a huge variety and all the different things. So that's what I enjoy doing. But, do what makes you happy. That's what I'm learning from you guys, rather than being in the rut of like, well, everybody else uses their Cricut Maker. I need to use my Cricut Maker and learn some new swear words.
Oh, you just use your Cricut Joy.
Yeah, the Cricut, because it
I
brings
love the
joy. But it's true that everybody is like, there's a lot of people who say, I'm not creative. You are creative. You're just creative differently than what you think the norm of quote unquote creative is. And that's okay. Like, use that creativity to do things that make you happy. Like Jen said, if it makes you happy, if it's not stressful, then, I mean, there are times that cooking a big meal, I'm like, oh, dear heavens, I can't wait until this is over. But I also really enjoy being in the kitchen. A lot of times people will be like, well, let me help you with that. And I'm like, no, I'll do it. I just want to do it. Like, it's because it's kind of my thing. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something where I feel I exceed, what maybe some people's normal expectations would be. And that's just makes me happy. Like, nothing else just makes me happy. And, seeing people fed well, that makes me happy. Weirdly, it's like, oh, look, they're so happy. They're all eating. It's great. So I just think that people need to not be stuck in a rut of this is what creativity is. Creativity is so vast and so many different things you can be creative with. So don't let yourself fall into a box of, well, I'm not creative like this, therefore I'm not creative.
Oh, I identify with that a lot, because I would be like at the craft things at church and I would be like, I do not fit into this at all. Even though I feel like I'm a creative person, especially now that I'm doing more like my job. But back in the day, I would have been said not creative, and people just roll their eyes when I walk up to their table because they know I'm going to ruin things.
Well, and I think the other thing is that, I think another way that you can look at being creative is by trying new things. Maybe being in the kitchen doesn't bring you joy. Maybe breaking out a Cricut machine and crafting doesn't bring you joy. But, another thing that everyone laughs at me about, well, I mentioned earlier my laundry. Part of the reason that my laundry gets backed up is because I actually love to do laundry. Nothing makes me happier than like figuring out how to get a stain out of something, or, taking it's silly. I've tried, talk about being creative. I've tried a lot of different things to get stuff out. But, like, if find that thing that makes you happy, or that, you feel like you're using your brain. And I think that's what it comes down to with being creative, is just using your brain. You're not sitting there just kind of blah. You're finding something to do and stuff, and do it. But then don't beat it to death until it doesn't bring happiness. Because I feel like that's the other thing, is it's like there were times when I was sewing, and like I said, I love to sew. And all of a sudden people would like, oh, can you do this for me? Or can you do this for me? And I was like, oh, sure, that'd be fun. And, so I'd be like, oh, well, if I charge them this much, then basically I can make the outfit that I wanted to make for Lila, and, and make theirs. And it didn't cost me anything to make it. But I got to the point where I was doing so much for other people, I never got to do it for fun anymore. And so then I just stopped. Like, it was like, nope, I'm not doing this for anybody else. Like, it was, and so now my sewing is less, but when I do it, it's something that I get to really be excited about. And, so I would say be aware of that. If you have something that you do enjoy doing and it helps you, lets you be creative and stuff, don't let somebody or yourself even take that away from you, from it being the fun thing, because then you have to find something new. And then that might not be as fun.
Yeah. Sometimes in the kitchen, like I love to be creative, but sometimes you're just like making a meal, which it can be monotonous. But sometimes I like remind myself, like, you are baking for fun this morning, Hillary. Like, this is supposed to be fun. Put on some music, take your time. Don't be like, it needs to be done by XYZ, rah, 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 you know?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you need to like remind yourself that you're here to be creative.
Yeah.
All right. Great discussion, ladies. Any other tips on being creative at home?
No, I mean, other than like I said, just jump in, think about the things that you like to do and really think about it. Don't judge your creativity by somebody else.
Oh, I love that.
Yep, for sure. I second that wholeheartedly. Do what the Marie Kondo, is that her name? The what sparks joy? find that. Find your joy, and then just let it continue to be that. I'm in a couple of like crafty creative groups on Facebook, and one person has shared something that they made, and everybody else like, you should sell this. She's like, no, I do this for fun. This is what I do because I love it, because I enjoy it. I don't want to make it a job. And I was like, oh, brilliant. What a great way to think about it. Don't make something you love be something that's just another monotonous part of your life.
Yeah, like blogging. That used to be my creativity.
Right.
That's over.
Yep. The fun
Got to
gets
blog
sucked
for
out
the
as soon
money
as
now.
money's
Yeah.
attached to it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, ladies.
Thank you so much,
having us.
Hillary.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I just think that being a mom and having a family means you got to get creative. And I love that you can be creative in a way that you love, because there's a lot of things we have to do as a parent that we maybe don't love, but there's a lot of things that we really enjoy. And when we take that and run with it, I think that's when the real joy of parenting comes, at least for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Thanks so much to Jen and Paula coming on. It was a really fun chat. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. We know you have lots of options for your ears, and we are glad that you chose us. We drop episodes weekly, and until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.